Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Nina Kauser Show. Well, you know what? It is so nice and so healthy to get those 3 points early in the weekend, early on a Saturday morning, just to apply the pressure on Manchester City. What an eventful week it's been for the Reds. Plenty to talk about, and my word, I have two phenomenal guests on the pod with me. I'm really excited to talk with them and obviously, recap on the game. And I'm sure you guys, the listeners, are going to enjoy the insight. And again, a massive shout out to everyone that's joined us live on Discord. So without further ado, let me introduce my excellent panel. They are familiar voices, but we love having them on all the same. First up, not spoken to him in a while. I like looking at records, and his evening kickoff record is impeccable. And I was actually sat there thinking, I wonder how we'll do today. And I wonder if his record still stays intact. And of course, I am talking about Karl. Karl, welcome to the show.
Hi, Nina. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while. I've been busy with moving house, but I'm glad to be back on the pod, and I'm glad that it's with a win.
Early for you as well. So, it's great to have you on. And, I like the fact that, people are probably looking at that team lineup, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I'm just sat there thinking, let me look at the stats of my panel. How are they going to do today? This is what happens when you're podcasting, people. But Karl's on and we won, and it's excellent. And joining Karl on this podcast, you know what? I have a big smile on my face because, she's absolutely infectious. I love hearing her on podcasts. I love working with her as well. And again, she doesn't need an introduction. She should be the official call recording voice on podcasts. If you've listened to the main AI show, the previous one, you'll know what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. It is the wonderful Lisa Marie. Welcome back.
Hello. Thank you, Nina. I'm so happy to be back, even if it is quite early on this side of the Atlantic. And I'm just going to warn everyone. I'm about... Can you not hear me? Can you hear me okay?
No, we hear you fine. What time are we on? Yeah.
It is, it's 8:42. I'm about 2.5 cups of coffee in, so I am, yeah.
She's wired and she's charged, and I expect a lot of energy.
It should come with a warning, yes.
Yeah, I am expecting a lot of energy, but you know what? So much respect for you guys getting up early, and I knew it would be an early one for you as well. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Right, before I get into everything, I just want to get your brief thoughts on the whole situation before we go to our first caller, who again is a familiar voice. So Gags just put something in Discord here, and April was a pretty intense month for the Reds, and in that time, beat Watford, beat Benfica, drew to City, drew to Benfica, beat Man City in the FA Cup, beat Man United, beat Everton, beat Villarreal, and beat Newcastle. And you know what? I think if we just pause, reflect, and breathe, it was the month of Ramadan. We're coming to the end of it. So obviously it's been a very intense month for just Muslims and for myself in general, and some of our players as well. But those games, I was like, oh gosh, I'm busy. That was a hectic schedule with big state games there. So I want to get your thoughts in terms of, I think you have to sit there and just marvel at this team. And Karl, I'm going to come to you first, just regards to that fixture list, the caliber of teams that we had to play, and the Reds' record there. So Karl, I'll come to you first. I mean, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really tough ask But we've got such a solid squad. I mean, there's depth in virtually every area, and I think Klopp has maximised that. He hasn't necessarily rang in the changes every game, but he uses the subs, particularly in Europe. He makes use of those 5 subs, and he's managed to keep people fit, and we've managed to avoid injuries, except for Bobby, unfortunately, who still seems to be out. And I think that quality in depth, and coupled with the drive of this team, they keep dismissing talk of the quadruple, but in the back of the mind, they want to win everything, and they know it's there for them. And I think that's what has gotten us through this April, that busy April, and I mean it's still going to be a busy May yet to come. So lots more football for them, and hopefully their legs can continue to take it. But it's just so impressive how they've managed to pull off such an almost flawless month.
I mean, how can anyone say that it's been anything other than absolutely fantastic? I mean, I remember us. I guess it was with Trev and Cam talking about the April fixture schedule ahead of us, and just boggling the mind, and it seemed like just a very scary mountain to climb, and the lads have done brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, and I mean, of course, we've had great rotation. We've been so lucky, with so far, and I am clutching the desk, lack of injuries, at such a key point in our season. And, it just puts a big smile on the face, doesn't it? To look back, because when you're in the middle of it, you're just kind of like, okay, just to the next one. And I just kind of forgotten until I saw Gags put that all up in the chat, what they have truly accomplished this month. And it's just phenomenal. And, well done, boys.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of people, maybe like some rival fans as well, were thinking this could potentially like derail Liverpool and their season and the injuries. And certainly if we had the lack of depth in the team and the squad that we had last season, I think that definitely derails us. So I think I have to agree with you in terms of what you said about Jurgen Klopp, about the players, how he's managing minutes, how he's maximising the 5 subs in Europe. I completely agree with that. And yeah, a hat tilt from everyone here at just how well and how incredible Liverpool have been in that very, very intense period, which was April. So yeah, we're happy with that. But first up, we are talking about the Newcastle game, and we might talk about the Jurgen Klopp contract talk as well. We'll see how things go. But first up, we are going to go to our caller. And again, he messaged me in the chat, and I was like, do you really need to ask? I kind of expect you to call because it's become a bit of a feature on the Nina Kauser Show. It's a familiar voice, but I am going to give him a shout out anyway. It's Kieran. Kieran, my friend, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
You know what? You never need to ask, but I love the fact that you do. So you might shock me one day and not calling. I'll be like, what on earth happened? But Kieran, this is your little slot, so take it away.
It was a big 3 points. As you know, we're at the point now where we just have to keep winning, and we wait and see what happens. But I felt the scoreline didn't reflect the performance. I thought the performance merited a lot more goals. I thought we wasted a few chances, and then I was getting a wee bit nervy at times with it still only being 1-0. Because this time last year when we played them and we were just not particularly good with no centre backs, and then I was just fearing that we were going to get sucker punched again. But thankfully that didn't happen. I thought we defended very well today. They didn't really hurt us at all, and I thought I thought everyone played their part today. It's a big 3 points.
Is huge, and I think you've made some really, really good points there, Kieran, and we will talk about the chances, and obviously, there is plenty to talk about. I'm going to go to the panel now, and but thank you so much for calling, and thank you for your points.
Thank you.
Nope, thank you, Kieran. So that was Kieran. Right, guys. Lisa, I'm going to come to you first on this one. So, early kickoff for you. You were, you needed to tank up on the coffee, and I don't blame you because I would be exactly the same. Team lineup. I mean, I think we always have to start from the top. So you look at the team that Jurgen Klopp fielded there. Obviously, I think the most noticeable kind of changes were, Gomez in for Trent Alexander-Arnold. That was a sub that was made in the Champions League as well against Villarreal. Jurgen Klopp made that sub. But I think the biggest changes were the midfield, of course. Milner and Henderson and Keita. So, talk to me about the team lineup. How did you feel about that?
It didn't fully register with me when I first looked at it because, basically I peeled my eyes open and, anyway, put my glasses on, which, by the way, I usually put my contacts in first thing in the morning, but I didn't want to do that today. So I just kind of looked at it and went, oh, okay, change. Then I started thinking and I was like, well, you know what? Let's start with it and see what happens. It may be fine. Milner hasn't played a lot lately, so he should have had a good rest. I liked the fact Fab was getting a bit of a rest because, I assumed Henderson would be in that number 6 role. And he was. And I thought, that's a good call with the run of games that we have coming up to allow him, a bit of time off. So I wasn't really super scared or anxious. Scared's probably a little bit of an overstatement. Because I thought, I think it's going to be okay. And I tend to be an optimist. So, and again, I wasn't fully awake when I was looking at it. So I thought, you know what? Let's just give it a chance. Let's see how it starts out. And Salah rest, I think was a good thing too, because I think we're going to really need him in these last run of games and because I think him being out a few games ago, having not having to play the full 90, did him some good, up their opposition later. So I think I was okay with it. I really was. I was overall, you always have that, where you think about it, and then I kind of think, let's not overanalyze. Let's just see what happens. And the fact that I really only looked at it about 15 minutes before kickoff probably helped as well, because I didn't really be overanalyzing the changes that had been made. And I have no problem with Gomez coming in for Trent. I think he has been doing well when he's done that. And I've talked about it probably even on this podcast before. We know it's not a like for like. We know Gomez isn't going to play right back in the same manner that Trent does. But I think he is, he does a great job when he comes in at that position. And I think today proved to be the same as well. And I know we'll get into that as we go forward. But no, overall, I was okay with the line.
Yeah, I think, Karl, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, you've heard Lisa's risk that midfield, and they have happened in the past. I think, there are genuine, talks about maybe that midfield combination of them two players, they just can't play together. But I think what really sort of calms the nerves down is the simple fact that you kind of look at that bench, you look at the opposition as well, and you understand Jurgen Klopp and the key to rotating players. And then you look at that bench and you think, well, Fabinho's there, Salah's there, you've got Thiago there, you've got Trent, you've got Chimikas, you've got Elliott, you've got Jones. Basically, what I'm trying to get at here is those players weren't playing because there's injuries and, the squad was thin bare. There were game changers on that bench. And I think that's what kind of, that Jurgen Klopp has got big impact players on that bench that can come in. So I want to get your thoughts in terms of the team lineup, how you felt about it as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the team lineup, there was a few, let's say, eyebrow raisers. First looking at the players who weren't included, I think with Trent and Thiago out, you're probably looking at our two most creative players. And then and Salah too, obviously, in terms of creativity. And then, with further forward then in terms of who is included, we're not the most balanced when we don't have Salah, because no one else is quite that natural fit on the right. When you're putting Diaz or Jota or even Mane out there, feels like you're taking a little bit away from their game. But Salah does have to have that rest, and there has been that question in the past 2 weeks: when is Salah going to get a rest? And obviously Klopp thought today was the right day, and it worked out that way. And but I mean, in overall though, despite that, you have to look at them from kind of a tactical analysis of how we play. How important Trent is in creativity, and Thiago, etc. But overall, I wasn't too concerned because the players that were coming in, Gomez has played a few games in the past few weeks. He's not rusty. It wouldn't be the same as when Gomez was suddenly included earlier in the season and he hadn't played football in a long time, and he looked like he hadn't played football in a long time. But now he's back, kind of match sharp. He knows where his place is in the team, and he's there to do the job. And I thought he had a very good game today. And Milner, okay, I think every Red would prefer that Milner didn't start, because the simple fact is he doesn't have it in his legs anymore. He can't quite keep up with play as much as he would have in the past, and he also tends to fade. So for that reason, people like to look at him as a sub, because when he comes on, his level of pace is more so where the other players are at after they've been running around for 70 minutes. And obviously he has that amount in the tank. But again, I thought he had a solid game, and when he did start to clearly fade, Klopp was quick to take him off. So I don't think we suffered at all for the changes. And one of the changes being Naby Keita was arguably our best player on the day, and I'm sure we'll come on to him.
We will absolutely, and I pretty much share your sentiments there. I think long gone are those days where you grumble at the team lineup and things, and you kind of understand that these players do have to kind of play, and Jurgen Klopp being in on getting the subs. So Karl, I'm going to stick with you, and let's talk about the first. We'll start with early portions of the game. So, I thought Liverpool, it was a nice bright day at Newcastle. I think people think the more north you go, the colder it becomes. So it's nice to see the sun out in Newcastle. But talk to me how the game kind of started for you, because I thought Liverpool looked quite in control. I thought they handled it really well. I always have this horrible feeling about Liverpool not doing well in the early kickoffs, but it's a bit of it's a self-internalized and feeling that I have within myself, because they actually do pretty well, and I have to give them a lot of credit because they played Wednesday as well. So they played late in Europe. They had the late kickoff in Europe in terms of the later day, and then the early kick-off on Saturday. And I know Jurgen Klopp likes to whinge and moan about them, but I thought they played really well. I thought literally only took 19 minutes for Keita to score an absolute, I thought lovely goal. But again, you spoke about Naby Keita then, how amazing he was, and what a great game he had. But it was great to see him getting a goal. And BT almost wanted a controversial moment with obviously James Milner's tackle, and of course Newcastle were calling for it as well. So, talk to me about that, because I did feel like that goal was coming, and I think Liverpool, they just kind of bounced on the whole aspect of bouncing into games in terms of having a great game previously, which obviously they did against Villarreal. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you're up against a Newcastle team that they have their tails up at the moment.
Yes, they do.
I think they're second in the league since January in terms of points. I saw that. I think I saw that on Twitter before the game.
Give credit to Eddie Howe as well. Then I mean, whilst if we're on the pod, he's done well with them, hasn't he?
Yeah, like he's really lifted them, and he has them a lot better organised than his Bournemouth team was. I mean, we obviously had a lot of chances today, and we'll obviously discuss them. Yes. But I don't think it was quite as open as Bournemouth were in the past. I think maybe Eddie Howe has kind of learned from his naivety somewhat when it comes to playing the bigger teams, especially, and they're better organised for it. And I think we saw that today. So we knew we were expecting Newcastle to have moments, and they obviously had the first moment in the game with the first chance. And, you kind of thought, are we going to have to kind of weather an early storm here? Are Newcastle going to throw everything at us? But credit to Liverpool, they really took control of the game, and, they worked the ball around. They were patient, and I think maybe the past two games have served us well in that sense, that because we've had to have a lot of patience against Everton and Villarreal, and
Yes.
it was calm, it was controlled. We had our attacks. I think maybe the decision making from the forwards is maybe the one point in this game that you could criticize. Sometimes they picked the wrong pass, or they shot when they should have passed, and we saw that. But the patience paid off, and the hard work in midfield with obviously James Milner making that challenge. And it's ridiculous to think that some you look on Twitter and some United, City, and Everton fans are trying to clutch at straws and say, "Oh, it was a foul. It was studs up. It was it." Like it's hilarious to sit back and watch Twitter lately. And to any decision that goes Liverpool's way, opposition fans are trying to find any excuse to go against the referees. But for me, the ref gets it spot on. Like it's Schär who kicks Milner. It couldn't be clearer than that. But obviously the ball falls nicely to us. But Keita had a lot to do. But he made it look so effortless.
Karl, you were kind of mentioning Liverpool decision making was bad, but I felt like there was a lot of we'll talk about the shots, but one thing that really impressed me about Naby Keita, which is probably why he scored, was you talk about decision making, pass instead of shooting instead of passing. I also felt like the quality of shots as well. We were kind of going more for power rather than precision, and Naby Keita just puts it past two defenders. But I'll let you carry on. But that's why we got that goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head there. Like it's crazy how controlled he was in that entire minute. That he dribbles it into the box, he takes it back past the keeper calmly, and then he still has, with two players on the line, he still has to pick a spot, and he picks it perfectly in between them. Like it was a quality goal. Like it's one of the best goals we've scored in recent weeks for me, because just fantastic individual goal from Naby Keita. I mean, hard to say completely individual, because you have to credit the Milner challenge and the run up as being part of it. But I mean, that's still so much for Naby Keita in terms of an individual sense. Like he just does brilliantly, and I think the goal just summed up his game as a whole, because it was just a flawless performance from him.
He was, absolutely. And AJ in there in the chat box saying Naby was brilliant, carried the midfield all game. I think a lot of people were very, very impressed with him, and we love to see him not being plagued with injuries. Lisa, I'm going to come to you. Talk to me about the early stints of the game, and of course, please talk to me about Naby Keita's goal. And I know it's an early one for you, and I hope that certainly woke you up a little.
It certainly did. I just wanted to kind of go back a little bit to what Karl was saying about Eddie Howe. In the pre-match coverage that I was watching, which is in this NBC USA network over, Bobby Earl, one of the commentators, in-studio commentators, was calling for Eddie Howe as manager of the year for the Premier League, which might be a bit of an overstatement, but he certainly has done well, with the team, and I agree with the points that Karl was making there. But I just thought the manager of the year thing was of note. And the sunshine at Newcastle. I actually messaged Guy during the game, and I said I thought the sun didn't shine up there. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that as well. Yeah, I thought, Newcastle did start a little bit on the front foot, more than I would have liked for them to, but I think we did well to kind of contain them, control that, and and play our game as it moved forward. And I was just writing down, on Milner's challenge, that was all ball. He, it was definitely a clean challenge, and looked up just in time to see that nice little, play around the players for Naby to take his shot. And it was beautiful. So yes, that certainly set me at ease as we moved on in and through the game. And, Naby did, he had just, it's just, if we don't have Thiago on the field, I think we definitely have to have Naby on the field, for that midfield control to just keep things being played the way we want them played in the midfield. And I think he absolutely did a smashing job of that today.
Lisa, I'll stick with you on this one. I agree with you on the points on Keita, but I think we can all agree Keita had a really, really good game. I thought he had a massive involvement shortly after his goal as well. You know, he plays a lovely ball into Diaz. You know, Diaz could have gone down for a penalty. He didn't. I think it would have been soft anyway. He wouldn't have got it. But, you know, we saw a lot of the ball. I thought Keita was pressing really well. You know, around about 33 minutes, I think Diaz goes on a counter, does really, really well. Plays it to Mane, who was, again, poor on his finishing. And, you know, I don't think Newcastle really scared me all that much or troubled us. I think Almiron maybe scared me a little, but he was offside. Our defence played a really, really great high line. I think they do that so well, so disciplined. And just overall, I think even in the first half, I think another time where we had another chance was maybe the Hendo cross to Jota, where Jota kind of heads it and the keeper parries it over the crossbar. So I want to get your thoughts on Liverpool's finishing. And, you know, do you agree with what Karl said earlier on in the pod with regards to, you know, maybe some of the decision making was a bit off and, you know, just in general, and your thoughts on the front three?
Yeah, absolutely. I did agree with what Karl was saying earlier. I mean, it's like shooting right at the goalie. You know, and I know, you know, it's one thing for me to sit here in my living room in front of the TV and say that. You don't know what they're seeing, you know, on the field. But it really did feel like they just weren't getting the shots quite right today. I mean, they had some fantastic chances. But they just seemed to, you know, that one, you know, of Mane's and you know, where he just kind of shot it right at the goalie, and I just, maybe it was just early for them too. But they, there were a few that, I mean, I think sometimes we're so used to the fantastic quality that we have in the front that we can maybe be a little bit hypercritical. But that's their fault for, you know, giving us that quality, right? For setting such high expectations and setting the bar just so high that we expect them to finish off, you know, all of these wonderful chances when they're at their feet. But I agree. I think the decision making was just not quite on point across the front today. But that's okay because we got the win, and that's all that matters. The 3 points.
They do, absolutely. And Karl, I'm going to come to you with the same point. I mean, are there any chances or any shots that, I mean, I've listed a few there. I mean, is there anything that you kind of want to highlight from the first half? Because despite all them chances and shots as well, I still felt like, oh yeah, we're in control. Like, it didn't stress me out. And I have to give you credit for kind of talking about the Everton game and Villarreal, where we had to be patient. And here we got gifted a goal quite early on, which kind of settled us a fair bit. So your thoughts on the quality of chances, and just the front three in general. I think AJ in there back in the chat kind of mentioned that Diaz absolutely terrified them. I think his pace and his strength was just a little bit too much. I mean, I want to get your thoughts on the front three, because I thought, you know, I like Mane. I thought Mane did really well against Villarreal. I thought he grew into the games. They all did in the second half. But for me, I thought Mane just didn't look himself. And, you know, Jota, he's one of them players. He's a bit of an enigma. Like, he can have a quiet game. He'll score 2 goals and you forget everything. And I guess that's his beauty, right? But I want to get your thoughts in terms of the quality of chances and what you made of the front three.
Yeah, I don't think there was that many chances of note in the first half. Like, we were very controlled, but the final ball wasn't always there. But you mentioned that the chance for Mane when Diaz broke away and he rolls it out to Mane, and Mane just hits it straight at Dubravka and just gets it wrong. But for me, the best chance of the first half, and I suppose it was kind of the round one of what I'd call Jota versus Dubravka, was when Henderson hits in a first time cross, and
Yes.
Jota, as always, somehow it's like his head has a magnet toward its footballs. It's crazy. But he gets his head to it, and Dubravka has to make a good save to tip it over. And there was Dubravka definitely won their battle on the day, and that was him kind of scoring the points win in round one, as it were. But other than that, I don't recall too many kind of solid chances in the first half. There was a lot more kind of in the second half. But I thought, like, the front three, they worked hard, but as I said before, I just don't think the decisions were quite there, and probably the balance didn't help. As you said, Diaz was really good at beating his man and getting in, but obviously he prefers to play on the left side. That's where, that's his bread and butter, being able to cut in onto his right foot. It's a lot harder for him when he's out on the right side. And I think we saw that today. I think he probably would have caused them a lot more problems if he'd gotten to play on his natural side, which he did, obviously, once we made the change for bringing on Salah later on in the game.
No, we did, absolutely. I mean, Lisa, I'll come back to you. Any talking points from the first half that you feel like we need to address, or should we move on to the second half and talk about maybe some of the subs and things? I mean, anything from the first half?
I was going to talk about down that right side. It was very physical between Gomez and Matip, and even Jota maybe a little bit with Joelinton especially. I was a little bit concerned, that we were going to do something silly, but it all came off okay, I suppose. But it was very physical there, down that right side. I mean, fairly early on. I mean, I had made that note at like 23, 24 minutes. So it was just something that seemed to, kind of ebb and flow as the game went on. But yeah, just something of note that we hadn't really talked about.
Yeah, I mean, the three of our players got bookings in that game against Newcastle. So Gomez, Mane, and Jota. And, I mean, Karl, I was kind of thinking, oh gosh, and obviously you know what the Newcastle crowd are like. They're very loud, and sometimes referees do cave into that. So, I mean, your thoughts on what Lisa Marie said there about it being quite a tenacious kind of, like there were some players on a few yellows there.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously a couple professional fouls, and obviously a bit of handbags, as we like to call it. I mean,
yes, we do.
Jota pushes Joelinton, and
yes,
Joelinton loses the rag, having lost the rag a couple of minutes earlier. I was actually looking at him as someone who could get sent off, because he seemed to be losing his head at every little thing. I mean, it's probably needless from Jota to push him, and it's probably a deserved yellow card for that reason. But with forwards, you're never too concerned about a sending off. Obviously with Gomez, it was a little different. You're thinking, it's a defender. It's never great for him to go in the book so early, but at the same time, like, he's a smart player, and like all our defenders are, like they know when to pull out of tackles when they've already gotten that yellow. So I wasn't too worried overall. The crowd, as you said, that is a part. They were very frustrated. I mean, I think they can only go on their view. They thought the Milner challenge was a foul, and I'm sure they all would have corrected themselves by this point, having seen it on social media or what have you. But I think that obviously did affect the atmosphere somewhat. And as you said, it's a great atmosphere there, and they're a tough crowd, and they were going to get on the refs back. But the ref seemed to, like, he had a solid game, and I don't think he was going to be influenced too much.
No, and luckily, thank God he didn't. Guys, we'll move on to second half, and Karl, I'll come to you. There was more chances in the second half, and I think Lisa Marie kind of highlighted Joe Gomez, and I think he does put in a good defensive shift. I think he's a very, very different player to what you get in Trent Alexander-Arnold, but and he has put in some good performances. I think one of the performances that really impressed me about Joe Gomez was the one that he had in the FA Cup against the Nottingham Forest. For me personally, he was my man of the match in that game, but obviously we're digressing, we're talking about this game. But Gomez puts in a cross to Mane, and we're talking about the players there, and he plays in across to Mane, and Mane, I think, fires it wide, but you sit there and you look at Mane and some of the goals that he's been scoring lately, but you feel that he could have technically done better there. He was maybe 10 yards out from goal, no real pressure. So again, it just kind of highlights your point about maybe some of the decision making. I mean, is it decision making? He didn't have, he had a lot of time to think there. Is Sadio Mane one of those players that he's one of those impactful players where he's better when he doesn't have so much time to think? I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that, because that was one of the earlier like good chances that we had.
Yeah, I mean, there is that theory on Mane that he plays best on instinct, and
Yes.
when he does things first time, that's when he's at his best. And I think there's definitely some method to that theory. But at the same time, I think with any footballer, there is times when they need to think when it is better to take a touch before you make that shot or the pass or whatever the case might be. And I think there was a couple times today where Mane, particularly with that chance you described, where Mane probably had the chance to take his time with it and he didn't. And, it's unfortunate. But I think every forward has those games every once in a while. I think we've seen it with all our forwards. We've seen it with forwards elsewhere. I mean, in terms of Joe Gomez, I'd agree that again he had a very good game, and his crossing is something that has impressed me in his recent appearances at right back. I mean, it would have been one of the question marks in the past would be, his crossing ability, and while he still doesn't have, obviously clear as day, he's not as good a crosser of the ball as Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's definitely not as good a passer as Trent is. But I think his crossing has shown to be serviceable. He got an assist recently, and he's put in a few other crosses that have resulted in chances. So, I mean, it is something that I think, at least visibly to me, seems to be improving in his game, which is good to see, particularly if we are going to use him as a kind of right back cover moving forward.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And you're talking about Gomez's crossing there. And Lisa, I'll come to you. I think he also played a really nice cross to Diaz as well. I mean, there was a lot of chances in that half, but, that was probably one of the early chances that we had in the first half with Mane. So I want to get your thoughts on terms of, how Mane's done. I think he has proved a lot of the critics wrong. He has been getting the goals. So your thoughts on talk to me about Joe Gomez and, the Mane chance.
Yeah, I mean, Mane, he has been getting the goals, and I'm liking him through the middle, in that role. I mean, I know it wasn't really there today, but in the last, couple games, he's been playing that, role through the middle, especially with Bobby being out, and he seems to be growing into it, I think. So, but I do agree. I think both of you said that, I think he does kind of play a little bit better, and he doesn't have that extra, second to think about where he wants to put the shot. I think when he just kind of does it. The thing about Mane that, I mean, and this was more toward, before he was subbed off, but he does tend to get a little, I can't think of the right word, reckless. That's a little bit of an overstatement, but sometimes we're, with his challenges or what got him the yellow card and everything is, yes. That's the only thing about him that sometimes worries me, is that he's just going to do something silly, that could cost us, more than the challenge, so to speak, would be worth. So, be it, get somebody a good free kick or even a penalty, or even gets himself a red card and gets himself sent off, is the only thing that I think sometimes he gets a little reckless. I guess good word, since I just used it twice. Yeah, so that's the thing about Mane.
Did he get booked against Everton? Did he get booked against Everton, or am I imagining things?
Yes, wasn't that when there was kind of that little bit of scrap going on? And
handbags, yes, and he pushed someone in the face. Alan, yeah, that's it. Yep, that happened. And of course, the challenge you're talking about today is against obviously he went for the ball against the Dubravka, and obviously we know Sadio Mane and his previous against goalkeepers. And Lisa, I'm going to stick with you, because literally he does that, and then 68 minutes in, you see Jurgen Klopp. You see two players who are going to come on, and of course the two players making the way are Sadio Mane and Jordan Henderson. On come on, Mo Salah and Fabinho. So Klopp makes changes, and Salah, I mean, we're talking about him needing a rest, but he instantly kind of made an impact. Lovely cross ball. He, great vision. He sees Diaz, and then he wants to be involved, and then he kind of makes a run in, and Salah was nearly on the end of it, but instantly comes on and looks sharp. So talk to me about the subs and Salah just coming on there.
I think the subs were perfect and timed perfectly. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was planned for Mane to come off and Salah to come on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think that was obviously a decision based on, Mane getting a little reckless.
Yes.
Or being on. I think it was just that was planned all along. And I think it was perfect, because that keeps both of them without the full 90 and to be fresh for the next round of games that are coming up as we move into May now. I thought solid. I mean, I think it was good for him. I think in two ways. I think it was good for him to have rest so that he wasn't playing the full 90 minutes, but I think he comes on hungry. Not that he isn't always, but he just did look so bright as he came on and just immediately involved. That, kind of first good chance. And then I think, Hendo off and Fab on was spot on as well. It gave us that little bit more of control in the midfield. And it gave Henderson the rest because, quite possibly he's going to start, the game midweek against Villarreal. So I think both of those subs were spot on from Klopp today. I mean, I think it almost just feels like, and I'm probably going to jinx us by saying this, but, Klopp is really getting the subs right. I know that's been a lot of criticism in the past, but sometimes it's just because he hasn't had the bench to pull from. But now he does have to pull from with, and I mean, it just feels like the subs are being, overall, I'm looking overall in the last, maybe say 2 months, they're being timed at the right spot. They're the right players that are coming on, and and it's just one more wonderful thing for us to be now.
Absolutely. And Karl, I'm going to come to you. I mean, I really like the subs. I like the diversity of the subs. I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that in terms of Salah and the instant impact he had. But I love the fact that, it was 1-0. So he brings on a player that is going to be threatening. It's going to cause another set of problems because we know Salah's got the pace and we know, he's just devastatingly good. I mean, us as Liverpool fans, we all know what he's about, and so do the opposition. And I love the fact that at 1-0, Jurgen Klopp thought, you know what? I don't want an upset. I'm going to bring on my general in terms of a defensive midfielder to just tighten up the screws there. So I love the diversity in terms of the two subs were like, it was like a balancing act in terms of bringing on another attacker, but shoring up the midfield a bit more and giving it some more security. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Lisa Marie said. I think Salah was like, he looked real switched on from the minute go, and he kind of was the catalyst for a spell for Liverpool, which I really felt was going to lead to the second goal and kill the game off, and unfortunately it didn't. Dubravka managed to stand tall, but it was great to be able to get Salah on there on the right, give them something new to think about there, and then also that allowed us to get Diaz onto his favourite side where he can have a bit more of an impact, and we really pinned them back. I mean, there was the spell, as I mentioned, where Newcastle just couldn't get out. They couldn't breathe. Every time they had the ball, we just nick it back and we were back at them. And
are you talking about Diaz when he skins the defender and plays across to Salah? And did you see that skill where he just completely kills the ball at his feet? And of course he hits it at Dubravka and straight at the keeper. But I mean, that by Diaz, I think he just shows what he's about. And then Mo Salah as well, just coming on looking that sharp.
Yeah, I mean, when the two of them are in wide areas, I think in recent weeks that's been when we've been at our best in terms of an attacking sense, is Diaz left and Salah right, and I think it's difficult for I'm not sure any Red would argue at that point, but I mean it refreshes things up front, that change, and as you mentioned, the change with Fabinho coming on, that freshens up the midfield, and Fabinho makes a lot of kind of important interceptions in the midfield, which allows that spell to continue. He's the one nicking the ball back, among others, but he stood out for me and allowing us to just keep that pressure on Newcastle and make sure that they couldn't kind of counter attack, which obviously was important when the game is so finely balanced. I was a little surprised that it wasn't Milner that made way for Fabinho.
I thought that as well. I ain't gonna lie. I thought, come on, a bit old. I actually thought, it'll be Milner coming off. So I agree.
But I think that goes to my point that he probably wants Hendo to play midweek.
Yes.
Probably. I mean, I just saw someone threw up a tweet from Simon Brundish there, where he compliments Klopp's management of the squad, that it's been a total masterclass in keeping the squad at the peak of their fitness and form, whilst mitigating a risk of injury through overplaying. And I mean, we touched on that earlier when we were talking about how he's navigated this April. You know, he's thinking a game ahead, which is so impressive. He's making the right changes for this game while also making the right changes for the next game. And you know, that's what we see with his substitutions at the moment. I mean, it's pure 4D chess really from Klopp as far as the season's concerned. And you know, that's what having a fantastic manager and also having such a strong squad allows.
It really, really does. And yeah, that Simon Brundish tweet made it into the chat box here just to kind of back up what Lisa Marie said about Jurgen Klopp's management of the team and the squad and his in-game management. So yeah, I would have to agree with that, guys. It was again, you know, we had that big we were just creating a lot of chances. We were asking a lot of questions. You felt like the second goal was coming. I think Liverpool, and you have to give credit to their defensive work, but I think the only time where I genuinely maybe got a little bit scared, because obviously they delay with the flags, but I think, was it St. Maximin who wins the ball in the middle of the park? I think it was against Fabinho, and he puts in, I think it's Chris Wood, and he's 1v1 versus Alisson, but luckily the offside, I mean Alisson saves it, but the offside flag goes up. But I think that was maybe the only time that I got a little scared, but a credit to our defence. I'll come to Lisa on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was just kind of jotting down a note, say if I didn't get a chance, that I mean, our defense overall was so solid today.
Yes.
In so many ways. I mean, there was that great part. It was probably about, I think, 75 minutes in when Robertson and Fabinho were kind of on the sideline, sort of double teaming Bruno, and just nicked the ball away from him. At the sideline, just such good defensive work, and there were multiple things like that.
Matip, I think
that we saw.
I think Matip as well, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Forcing his play. The one I jotted down, but yeah, there were multiple times where we were just, and Lubo just put in the chat about Robo's sliding tackle at the end. I mean, that was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So I mean, I think overall our defense just. And even with changes from midweek to the defense, of course, Matip and Virgil have been playing together all season, but, that wasn't who was on the field together in center back on midweek. And, and Gomez coming in for Trent. So, I mean, it's just showing that even with the changes in that back four, they're still playing well together as a unit and maintaining that infamous high line that we have to hear mentioned every single game.
Yes, we do, and we'll never ever get tired of it because it's so
they do it so well. They just do it so well. No, I'm sorry. What? Yeah, what question did you ask me before I started nattering on about the defense?
No, it's all good. I was talking about just maybe the only chance that Newcastle had where I got a little scared, but the defense held their line.
Your heart was kind of in your throat just for that split second, but we have Alisson. Yeah, I mean, and I've just gotten so used to that late offside flag that I don't get as irritated about it as maybe I was a couple months ago. Now, I do think that is offside, right? That's offside. Are they going to put the flag up? Are they going to put the flag up? Oh, yeah. Oh, now they did. Now that, it's been saved. So as long as defense, the back four, whoever, Alisson, everybody just doesn't expect it to be called offside, and just because I think that was a little bit of an issue. What game was it? It may have been the Man City game, where they were kind of doing that, and they ended up being onside. I don't remember. It was some game this month. I mean, Lord knows there's enough.
I think you're right. Lisa, I think you're spot on there. And Karl, I'm going to come to you on that in terms of our defence and high line, because I think it has been so well worked. The only time where it looked a bit suspect, not suspect because they are playing a world-class team, was against Man City. They were having some joy against it. And, they because obviously they've got the quality of players to do so, they were doing quite well with it. But I want to get your thoughts in terms of the high line, the defensive work that we put in today. And I think that was probably the only chance that kind of scared me. But, the linesman and his flag. And I have to agree with Lisa. So much, you have to give so much credit for this team for them to play to the whistle, because going off topic here, but we saw Courtois for Real Madrid. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was a great goal by Bernardo Silva, but you could tell by Courtois that he was waiting for the ref to blow his whistle for a free kick or something. You could tell that he was not in the moment, in the game at that moment. And that's probably the difference between a goalkeeper like Alisson and Courtois, because he just looked in no man's land for that goal. But your thoughts in terms of Liverpool and the high line today and that chance for Chris Wood?
Yeah, I mean, the high line is always a talking point, and I'm not sure why, to be honest, because I think it really speaks for itself in terms of its success rate. You're gonna have the odd game where the high line gets caught out, because it's a gamble. A high line is a gamble at the end of the day, and
Yes.
sometimes a gamble won't pay off. And there's been games of the Benfica game, obviously, where the draw was a big highlight of that, like where we just the offside trap was fooled, and they got in and they got some goals. And I think obviously the Aston Villa game, the 7-2 was probably the greatest example of the high line getting got out. But those kind of games are few and far between. You mentioned Man City. Yes, they have found ways around our high line, but I mean, they're a team, in terms of how in sync their players are,
Yes.
the runners to the passers. I mean, they might be the most in sync team in world football. I'm not saying they're the best, but in terms of that kind of, as to quote Friends, unagi between the players.
Oh my
God, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks. They are going to find a way around a high line at times, and you just know against Man City they're going to have chances. You just take that on the chin. But for the most part, the high line beats the opposition's attack. Like it catches them out, as it did Newcastle, where we're offsetting 9 times. Lubo put in the chat. It is an effective system, and I think maybe those late flags in recent years have kind of leave your heart in your mouth sometimes, because you're not sure yet whether the high line worked or not. But that's all it is. It's just a delay in the flag. And I think I've personally kind of settled down that as similar to Lisa Marie, that the delay flags don't bother me anymore, because I'm going on the expectation that we will have caught them offside, and when we don't, it's actually a surprise. So it's a fantastic system, and I think it also serves to allow us to rotate in defense, because I think it's easier to, if that's your system, if you're relying on your line and just keeping a line, it's easier for people to rotate in and out of that line than it would for maybe a defense that play deeper, like a Burnley, for example. When Ben Mee and James Tarkowski are there, it's fine. But whenever one of them's out, their defense looks a bit shaky. So I have no problem with the high line. I think it is the way we should play. We should always play. We should never compromise on that line for anything. And even when Villas and Benficas and those kind of results come along, it's just they're the exception rather than the rule for me.
I agree, and also you've got to look at your keeper as well. And you've got a sweeper keeper to some degree in Alisson, who likes a lot of space in his box. You can't be sat on his throat. It just doesn't work. It's not like a Simon Mignolet. Those days have gone. And you have to look at your goalkeeper and his strength, and he screams for space. So a high line just works so well. I agree with you guys. Karl, I'm going to stick with you, because you were speaking about James Milner staying on for as long as he did. 77 minutes. Took him off. Thiago comes on. I'm loving just Thiago. I'm loving his numbers. I'm loving the control that he has. I also love the midfield trio of Thiago, Keita, and Fabinho. I think moving forward, this definitely looks like maybe the preferred choice of midfield. I mean, I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think in the run up to the change, Milner kind of comes in late, misses a challenge. Like, it wasn't a foul, but he just completely misses the player. And you could just say, well, his day is done. And clearly Klopp saw that too. And he was a step ahead. He had Thiago ready to come on. And Thiago comes on and he just gives us that extra bit of control, and that's what you need when you're 1-0 up and trying to see it out. And I mean, as you said, he's just been fantastic lately. I mean, earlier on in the season, Salah was the clear standout as our best player, but I think in recent weeks it's hard to argue against Thiago. Like, he's been absolutely incredible. Not just his passing ability, his off the ball work, like, his tackles, like he's up there with
Yes.
Fabinho in terms of winning it back in the midfield. Like, he's just, what a player. And to think that some fans or some pundits, and some pundits still are kind of having a go at him and think he was a poor signing. Like, it's completely baffling, because the only thing you can say against him is obviously he's had a few injuries. Aside from it, when he's on the pitch, he's completely faultless, and he's often, for me, the player that takes us to the next level, like the player that takes us from a very good team to a great team. He just makes us tick in there. And as you said, that midfield three, I think it's difficult to pick any other potential combination in recent months, that could be our best combination, because obviously, Henderson's our captain. He'll always give us all, but yeah, it's hard to argue that this has been one of his weaker seasons in his time at Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's had some bad spells, and whereas Naby Keita, this has been the season where he's managed to stay fit.
Yes.
When he's gotten on the pitch, 9 times out of 10, he's been one of the better players out there. Like, I didn't think he was great against Everton. I thought he had a quiet game. Maybe it didn't suit him, the way Everton were playing. Probably wouldn't, when you consider Everton were completely bypassing their midfield, and Naby's probably at his best when he's pressing and nicking it back and laying it off to one of the forwards, and he never got the chance to do that when Everton are hooking 60-yard balls down the field. But he came back with a vengeance today. Like, he was, for me, spoilers, my man of the match. Like, he was completely faultless, as I said on the front end of the show.
No, he absolutely was. And I guess, the whole, James Milner thing. And I guess, again, back to, Lisa's point there about game management, if you're going to play James Milner for 80 plus minutes or thereabouts, this is maybe the team and the opposition to do it against, like, in a sense that, you've got all these midfielders. You can give James Milner some minutes, keep the squad happy, keep them fresh, keep them alert, because, you never know, football is a crazy thing that there might come to a point where one day you might have to rely on James Milner in one of these games. So it's very, very important that he gets the minutes as well. But, Klopp taking him off at the right time. And I love the fact that you mentioned Thiago's tackling there. It certainly has improved. He was phenomenal. He has been phenomenal. And I think the last season when he had the critics, I think it's also worth noting that the team was absolutely riddled with injuries in midfield, and he was having to play DM, which is not his position. So how can you call him a flop when he was not even playing in his right position? But Lisa, I'll come to you on that midfield trio, and I want to get your thoughts on that, and if you had any notes on it.
Thiago is just such a joy to watch, isn't he? I mean, he just makes you smile. He makes it look so easy. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I have truly been enjoying watching him. I mean, obviously since he joined the squad, but very much so in this last few months, because it's like he is now being allowed play in the position that suits him best in the midfield and to play his game. And it's just, I mean, it is funny. I was thinking as you were talking about the criticism that, he was receiving, and I really haven't heard much of that, on some of the coverage and things that I've been watching. All I hear is them just singing his praises, like they've just discovered who he is. And it's like, yeah, we've been trying to tell you. We've been trying to tell you what a magnificent player this guy is. And now that he's able to play in his position, his way, the way we, intend for him to play in our team, he's showing you just absolutely how fantastic he is. So high praise for Thiago Alcantara. But yeah, no, I mean, this is the preferred midfield that we saw close out the game. You know, Abby, Fab, Thiago, that's what we want to see. But again, the number of games, the level of competition we're in right now, it's just not feasible to have that play the full game every game. And, you know, it just goes back to the wonderful way that Klopp has been rotating the squad is starting Naby, so that gives us that control in the midfield, you know, bringing Thiago in to help finish out the game as Milner was getting fatigued. And allowing, you know, Thiago to have the minutes in his legs to help keep him fresh. It just all goes back to having a strong squad, the way they're being managed, and it's just, you know, helping to keep us pushing toward the success that we want to see, and we, fingers crossed, are going to see this season.
Absolutely, and finish the game off, control the game. We look really, really comfortable towards the end, guys. I don't think there's many talking points from the game after that. I mean, Lisa, anything from your notes? Anything you kind of feel that needs highlighting?
I just want to say that the traveling cop was in wonderful form today. You know, when you see the crowd, you know, when the cameras would pan over, I mean, it was just a sea of black and white, and our fans were kind of, you know, up in the, as we like to call it over here, the nosebleed section. But I could hear them. I don't know if the coverage mics were just positioned in the right spot or what, but I could hear the songs, you know, coming through the coverage I was watching, and it's just such a lovely thing to see and to hear. And so, you know, credit to the traveling cop today.
Always. And what about you, Karl?
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly echo what Lisa Marie said there. That I praised the Newcastle fans earlier, but equally you have to praise the travelling fans, and they've been the 12th man in recent weeks, and that's what we probably need alongside Klopp's excellent rotation to carry these weary legs through the remaining weeks and hopefully to more trophies. I mean, just my final thoughts on the match really would be that, you know, this a few weeks ago when we were looking at the two fixture lists side by side, ours and Man City's, and people were saying ours was tougher because they were looking at, you know, the couple of derbies, and this match, you know, stood out to a lot of people given Newcastle's form. So it's such a massive credit to Liverpool that they could go away to a Newcastle in flying form and just completely control the game. You know, shoving aside maybe that shot from Bruno that wasn't really much at all in terms of Newcastle. I've seen a lot of Newcastle fans say they just were completely toothless, and you know that was because Liverpool yanked those teeth right out. Like, they just completely controlled the game and just never gave Newcastle a moment. And you know, the Klopp and the lads deserve a big applause for that.
They do, absolutely. And Karl, I know you've given some spoilers. We're going to go there. Man of the match. So you watched it on BT because obviously I've been watching you talking in Discord. They gave it to James Milner. I was a bit baffled at that one as well. I'm not going to lie. I was like, really? I'm pretty much thinking what you're thinking as well. So, I mean, just one more time for the cheap seats at the back. Who is your man of the match?
Yeah, I mean, clearly BT have some sort of old age pensioner handicap going, you know, which is fine. You know, Milner had a good game, a very good game for him, but you know, clearly there's only one choice for me, and that's Naby Keita.
I would have to echo that as well. And I just love the fact that we are seeing Naby Keita playing full 90 minutes. And to me, that is just a joy in itself as well, considering that was maybe, I don't know, a pipe dream. Certainly when he first joined Liverpool. Lisa, who was your man of the match and why?
You know, to me, standouts for the match were Joe Gomez and Milner. And again, I don't think he's man of the match, but I think just based on everyone's sort of nervousness or skepticism or whatever, seeing him in the lineup, I think he put in a solid performance. But yeah, I mean, no controversy, absolutely Naby Keita. I mean, I kind of made a note at the end of the first half that he was the standout player, you know, for the first half to me, and it just carried on through the rest of the game. So it's not even the goal. I mean, obviously the goal was important and was wonderful, but it was just his overall performance. And as you said, Nina, it was so nice to see him play full match, a full 90 minutes. And long may it continue.
Absolutely, and he was very much involved throughout the whole game. I think round about the 84th minute, he plays a lovely pass to Diaz, looks up, pings across to him, and obviously Diaz fires it wide, which basically what I'm trying to highlight here is the fact that he didn't fizzle out in the game. He kept it. He was trying to make things happen, and he was very, very forward thinking throughout the whole game. And I love to see that. So yeah, Naby Keita is our man of the match. Before I let my panel go, some news broke this week, and I think it left all Liverpool fans with the biggest smile and relief on their face. And I am talking about Jurgen Klopp contract extension. I've had a brief chit chat about it on Euro in season, but I want to, let these guys have a little say on that. Lisa, I'm going to come to you first. I mean, incredible news, massive. I think, we were all a bit worried, like what's going to happen when he leaves. But I let you speak about it from a fan perspective on what it means to you.
It was the lift and the bounce that my week needed. Had more to do with personal reasons than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it did. It just put a smile on my face and probably distracted me during my work day on Thursday. Far instead of listening live on Discord to the couple podcasts that were recorded and everything else. But it just, I mean, our future was looking so bright anyway. And I'm one of those people that, just tried not to think past that 2024 of, oh gosh, Klopp leaves. But it just really, and I think it's going to, I mean, not just for overall for the team, but I really think it's going to help maybe sort, fingers crossed again, I think that maybe one of the stalls in Salah's contract. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just think that having Klopp is going to be here through 2026, I think is just going to be such a strong point for any young players we're recruiting, and then again, continuing to extend contracts for the players that we have. I think it is all just setting this team up for long-term success, and I am so excited that Jurgen is a Red.
Here, and Karl, over to you. What does it mean to you? How did you feel about the news? Personally, I wish they held on till Friday. It's my born day. So just a bit of patience, but it was an early birthday present. I lapped it up, and I've had a belated one today. So, Karl, over to you.
Yeah, so similar to Lisa Marie, I had kind of a stressful week. I've been moving into a new home, and I've been so busy, and there's a lot going on in the house, and some things are going wrong, some things are going well. It's mixed, but it was funny because that day I didn't really get to look at my phone. Usually I'd be checking Twitter, frequently, or I'd be on WhatsApp in different groups with different Reds, and I'd know what was going on. So I was probably about 3 or 4 hours late to the news, and I just suddenly got a minute, and I'm catching up on Twitter. I was like, what the heck hell? Like, Klopp has signed a new deal. So I never saw in the morning when, kind of the Athletic and etc. were suggesting that it might be on the verge. So it was just completely caught me unawares. But what better surprise to get than Klopp renewing. And I've been saying, and for the past few months, that I'm more concerned about Klopp extending than Salah extending. Not that it's not important that we get Mo to sign on the dot, but I think Klopp is, he is Liverpool at the moment. Like, he's the main man. He's the one that has us here. Tim has brought all these players together. We have to remember, and there was that concern that our team is. Some of the players are getting on. They're some of them are the wrong side of 30. Some of them are about to be the wrong side of 30. And you wonder where that continuity was going to come from. And we've done well with recruitment, obviously getting in the likes of Kanate and Diaz and Harvey Elliott and stuff, players that are going to be there for the next few years. But we do have more to come, and when players are coming in, they're going to want to know who the manager is, and it's good that they know now Klopp will be here for the next 4 years, so players won't have any qualms with signing kind of a 4-year deal when Liverpool come knocking in the summer, and that means Klopp is in the position now to set up kind of the next crop, and when it does come time for him to go, and I hope it's not in 4 years. I hope it's in 6-7 years, whatever the case might be, that maybe the squad will be in a better place age wise for whoever his successor may be to come in and take over.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing there, the fact that, he secures things down, and, he would never ever, judging by him, like leave the club in a way that is, he would not leave it in a worse shape, basically. And, like you talk about the next crop of players, and I think that's big on this Liverpool side, is just to keep regenerating, don't end up like an AC Milan, where you keep playing your best players. So, yeah, I'm really excited, and I love having Jurgen Klopp there. I just think it's a match made in heaven at Liverpool Football Club. Guys, we have come to the end of the pod. A massive thank you to Kieran who called in. A huge thank you to everyone that joined us live and chatting, keeping it interactive on Discord, and everyone that's joined us live. A massive thank you to all you listeners, and a huge thank you to these two awesome panelists who have just made this show just much as enjoyable as Liverpool being on top of the league. Before I let them go, I'm going to get some plugs. Lisa, I'm going to come to you first. Where can people find you on social media, and is there anything you'd like to plug?
So I can be found on Twitter at LMarieMH, and I believe that's also my Instagram handle as well, if you want to see pictures of my kids or my cats or whatever. Still doing the main AI pod with my friends Trevor Downey and Cam Branch. We're not able to record yesterday. I think Trevor was having some Wi-Fi issues, but we're going to maybe try to sneak it in either tomorrow or Monday. But we'll certainly be back next Friday for sure, to continue all the hashtag fun talking about our wonderful football team. So that's kind of it for me, and it has been wonderful joining you again, Nina and Karl as well, and I just hope everyone has a great week and just keeps on enjoying our wonderful team.
Absolutely, and give Lisa a follow, and do check out the main AI pod. It is an absolutely great listen, and it's just fun. Football and fun. We like it. So yeah, do give that a listen. And Karl, where can people find you on social media, and is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes, so you can follow me on Twitter at KMacofTheCop. In terms of plugs, nothing at the moment. As I said, my focus has been elsewhere, but hopefully I'll get my voice on a few more podcasts in the weeks to come, now that there's a little less on my plate. But yeah, thanks for having me back again, Nina, and great to pod with you for the first time, Lisa Marie.
It's been amazing. No, give Karl a follow. And right now, the only plugs that he's concerned about are the ones around his new house. And we completely get that, it's completely justifiable. But he will be on more pods, and we want to hear him on more pods. And love having both of these two on. Guys, thank you so much for listening. For my part, there will be a Euro Incision podcast. Me and Themis will be talking. Hopefully, we will be talking about the Reds making it to a final, Let's hope, we're halfway there with regards to that one. And of course, I will be back for my post-match show for Spurs. So guys, enjoy your weekends. It's great when the Reds get their wins early on. And as things stand right now, still top of the league. So, and let's hope it stays that way. Till next time, take care and up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.